Yo, what's happening, guys? I'm making this video today to discuss really what's happening at Manchester United with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and really what's happening with the club in general, really. Um, for some reason, I don't understand why everyone's jumped on top of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer all of a sudden. I understand that like the league form this year hasn't been great, but Manchester United is 6 games into the season. Yet people are suddenly all jumping on the back of Ollie and saying he needs to be sacked already. I just don't understand why. I really don't. And part of me thinks maybe because of the way Ollie was appointed, people will always see him as like a stopgap until another manager comes in. I think a lot of people don't see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as a manager. I don't feel like they take him seriously enough as a Manchester United manager and not an intern. Like he is the man for the job. Um, I think with that in the back of people's minds, that's why they jump on all these things with Ollie. And I feel like they treat him a lot differently to a lot of other managers in the league. Um, and I don't really understand why. You know, a lot like, this year's form in the league hasn't been great, but he's lost 6 games. We've played 6 games. Like I understand losing 3 of 6 is terrible. I get it. It is bad. But he's 6 games into the season. Yet people are calling for his head already. And I really don't understand. And there's a couple points I really want to make, really discussing this. And maybe if anyone watches this and has an opinion on it, they could put something in the comments maybe so I could really understand where people are coming from. But if we're just purely talking about the league, listen, the first couple of games of the season, they were terrible. The performances were bad. There wasn't really any saving grace, really. You know, that the Brighton game should have lost comfortably, and if we'd have played a team with better quality, we would have been absolutely hammered, like what happened with Spurs. But I almost look at before that international break was almost like Manchester United's pre-season. You know, a lot of people need to take into account that a lot of clubs had a longer pre-season than United. From what I understand was the whole squad was together 4 days before that Crystal Palace game. 4 days before that game, the squad got back together. Now, you could tell in that Palace game that they were slow to everything. They were second to everything that was happening. And clearly the fitness wasn't right. And maybe that can be an excuse for some of the games that they've played this season. I think it definitely up to the international break, I think that's a massive factor. You also got to understand that Paul Pogba had coronavirus before the start of the season, wasn't fit, and things like that. But Paul Pogba was a completely different argument of that. Probably a different video if people want to see it. So yeah, I don't understand the whole Ollie situation. I don't understand it. 6 games in, and after the international break, I think that's when you start to see the good performance against Newcastle. RB Leipzig and PSG were good performances. They were wins, okay? The Chelsea game, I think people looked a lot into that Chelsea game. You know, Manchester United have struggled at home and Ole set up defensively. Yes, they didn't. It wasn't free-flowing attacking football, but people made out that 0-0 result against Chelsea was a bad result, and I struggle to see that because at the start of the season, if you watch some people and especially some Chelsea fans, with the money that they've spent, over 200 million in this market this season, some people have seriously expected them to challenge Liverpool and City. Now, I don't quite agree with that, but that's what some people made the point of. Now, in that case, I think getting a point against them is really not that bad. And what people have got to understand is Anthony Martial wasn't in that game. He was 3-match suspension, so he misses the Arsenal game as well. And I feel like people seem to gloss over that fact. You know, he was Manchester United's top goal scorer last season, and you take him out of the team, and we struggle to score goals. Well, yeah, that makes sense. You know, yeah, look at Manchester City right now. Without Aguero and Jesus, they're struggling to score goals. It makes an effect. Look at last season when Harry Kane was missing for Spurs. They dropped points. That's what happened. They didn't have a goal scorer. You take Salah or Mane out of Liverpool, the same thing happens. You know, yet for some reason I haven't seen that mentioned a lot. And people say, oh, against Arsenal and Chelsea, against Arsenal and Chelsea that it was like that wasn't a fact. Of course, it was a fact. He had to set up differently. Now, people make out that the Arsenal game was like people calling for him to be sacked after the Arsenal game. Listen, did Ollie get it tactically right? No, he didn't. Did Arteta get it right? Yes, but it wasn't like Arsenal were like sieges upon the goal at Manchester United. If that game ends 0-0, no one complains about that result. You know, Arsenal stuffed out Manchester United's attack, and that's basically what happened. Manchester United would get the ball, Arsenal would press, Manchester United was sloppy in possession with it, but Arsenal didn't create an awful lot of chances. It was a penalty that got them a win. Yet, for some reason, it comes across like, oh, it was a shocking performance, it was terrible. It wasn't great, but defensively, I thought they were pretty good, you know. Now, there's no defence for the game the other night against Istanbul. There's no defence, really, against that. The performance was shocking. The defending was appalling. You know, and it was, from my opinion, it's Luke Shaw again. I'm very optimistic in the fact that I don't know if it's just complete hope and I don't know really like complete blindness that I think when Alex Telles gets in a team that Manchester United's form completely changes, because I feel like he offers anything that Luke Shaw doesn't really. I don't understand how Luke Shaw's kept his place. I really don't. Defensively, not great. Going forward, even worse. Yeah. So for me, Alex Telles makes a big difference, especially if Manchester United want to play that diamond in midfield. I think if you can play that diamond in midfield, you get Alex Telles getting up the box, and he actually crosses the ball into the box. He actually puts balls in, and not just any balls, they're actually quality deliveries as well. So now, defensively, I've read a lot of stuff about. I've not watched a lot of him, but from what I've read about him, defensively he's quite vulnerable. But from what I've heard, attacking wise, what he delivers and what he brings to the team is massive. So I do think a lot of things do change. But going back to what's happening, the whole Ole Gunnar Solskjaer stuff, I don't understand why he gets bombarded with all this. He's been terrible, or he's not a good enough manager at Manchester United. He came third last season. Now, I know a lot of people have said, well, they only came third because certain teams dropped out like Leicester and Chelsea bottled it. Well, you can't blame Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for other teams not doing their job. You forget, Manchester United went unbeaten from the end of January all the way up to the end of the season. They were unbeaten in the Premier League. They didn't lose, you know, and people are branding that and completely forgetting about that. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, until the Istanbul game the other night, was on Manchester United's all-time consecutive wins away. All time in the history of the club, no one has won more consecutive games away from home. Not even Sir Matt Busby, Sir Alex Ferguson. No one's ever done it. And I just don't understand it. I really don't. You know, last season he managed to come third with Paul Pogba missing almost the entire season, Anthony Martial missing for months, Rashford was out with his back in the early parts of the year. I think after Christmas he was out, and Bruno Fernandes wasn't even at the club. So up until that point, he's playing with a midfield with players like Pereira, Lingard in there, with Fred and McTominay, with James on the right or James on the left, depending on where Rashford was. Rashford being taken out of his left wing position and put up front where he's not as good, in my opinion, as he's out on the left. And he still managed to come third for all that. Yet that doesn't seem to be an argument in it. That seems to be completely disregarded. Now, I understand this year they've not been great, especially defensively, and people are saying, oh, he's not a defensive coach. Where's the defensive coaching? Last season, Manchester United conceded 30 less goals than the season before. 30 less goals, that's massive. And throughout the entire Premier League season, they only conceded 3 more than Liverpool and 1 more than Manchester City. So that incredible great Liverpool team, they did with Van Dijk and Trent and Robertson and Gomez with Alisson behind it, yet only 3 more goals Manchester United conceded than them in the league. Now all of a sudden he's not good enough defensively. He needs to get defensive coaches in, or he's not coaching the team. Yet people seem to forget that what happened last year with that. It's almost like people all look at what's happening with Ollie through like rose-tinted glasses. Not even rose-tinted glasses. They're looking through it with a filter just to point out the negatives. And I feel like a lot of Manchester United fans, especially, are getting sucked into this media thing. If you look on ESPN, it's always about, Ollie needs sack. Is it his last chance? There's no tactical. He's not good enough tactically against these teams. And you look on Sky Sports. There's always this stuff about, is Solskjaer good enough for the job? Poch coming in, all this sort of stuff. And I feel like people don't give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the respect that he deserves, and people call him tactically naive. Yet in the big games against Manchester City, I think against City he's the first manager in history to beat Pep 3 times in one season. We were the first team last year to take points off Liverpool in the league. We beat Chelsea 3 times last year in the league. Oh, this is the big one again in the FA Cup everyone brings up. But 3 out of 4 times he won that game. He won those games. In the Champions League this year, we've seen the PSG result. We've seen the Leipzig result. Granted, that Leipzig result, probably 5-0, was an over-exaggerated scoreline, but they definitely deserved to win that game. The same with PSG. And people, I seen after that PSG game, people saying, he just sat back and countered and did a counter-attack. But if you watch both of those goals, they don't come from counter-attacks. They come from sustained possession leading to goals. And I feel like he's massively disrespected in that regard. And when Ollie loses, it's because he's not a good enough manager and he's tactically not good enough. And his formations and whatnot are terrible, and he got the game selection wrong. It's Ollie's fault. And when they win a game, he should win. He's got good enough players to win a game. So it's almost like this double-ended sword where if he loses, it's his fault, and if he wins, it's got nothing to do with him, it's the players. And I really don't understand. And people are calling for Pochettino to come in all of a sudden. And I just think it's so early on to do this. I really do, because I think you need to give Ollie to the end of the season. You really do. Because don't forget, we're still in every single cup competition. We're in the quarterfinals of the League Cup. We're still in the FA Cup, the Champions League. Apart from that result last night, we're still top of the group stage in that regard. And that was a group of death, by the way, that people didn't think we'd even qualify from. Yet somehow he's top in the group. And people just overlook all this sort of stuff to tie with this brush of he's not good enough, sack and get rid of him. Listen, if the league performance carries on the way it is by the end of the season, okay, fair enough. But don't forget, he's played 6 games this season, and 3 of those games have come against 3 of the big 6. Now, have the results been good against them? Obviously not. He's got 1 point out of 9. However, he's played 3 of the top 6. And after this Everton game at the weekend, his fixtures turn around. And I just feel like people are jumping on this bandwagon for some reason. And a lot of people in the press, and I really don't understand it. I really don't. And you look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, if he's not the man for the job and he does eventually get sacked at the end of the year or whenever, I think that the job that he's done with getting rid of players, getting players out of the club that are on terrible contracts who shouldn't be there, like the likes of Ashley Young and Pereira and all these people, he's getting rid of people out of the club that shouldn't be there, don't deserve to be there. He got rid of deadwood like Sanchez, Fellaini. He got rid of Lukaku, who I actually thought was a really good player, but he just didn't fit Manchester United's system that I wanted to play. So fair enough, he got rid of him. It doesn't want to be there. He's got rid of likes of Dalot, Pereira, Smalling. And there's still obviously a lot more to go with like Romero, Phil Jones, Marcus Rojo. The process is still happening. Yet for some reason, people aren't giving him any respect on that either. He's building foundations at this club. And you've also got to mention that he was never backed into something by the board. The same thing that's happened with David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho is happening again. And my fear is if you sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and you get in Pochettino, he gets a year, doesn't get backed, the team starts struggling, and we're back to square one again. And with all these transfer policies, he's really building something for the future here. There's a lot of young people in this team. They're learning, they're growing. And I feel like they need to give him that time to do that. Will he get it? I don't know. I think he should get to the end of the season at least. And I think people are jumping on him Granted, the performances haven't all been there, but I think there's circumstances. I also think the fact that he came third last season gives him time, gives him, I don't know, almost like it gives him yeah, it just gives him time. He came third with that team, that squad of players, with all the injuries. Yet he came above Chelsea, Leicester, Tottenham, Wolves, Arsenal. And this season, don't forget, he's lost the same amount of games as Arsenal have so far. Arsenal have lost 3 games, the same as Manchester United. Yet Arteta's building something at Arsenal, and Ollie needs sacked. It's very strange to me. And I just made this video. If no one sees this, that's fine. It's just to get it off my chest. I've been listening to a lot of people talking about it, and it's kind of annoyed me. I know a lot of Man United fans are at the point where they want to see the end of Ollie, sadly. But yeah, I was making this more to get things off my chest. If anyone does watch this and they have a different opinion, put something in the comments so I can understand what your side of the opinion is. I'd love to read them if you do see it. But anyway, if you do watch this, thanks for watching.